webinar. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you joining today from South Carolina, California, Washington, around the world, Rwanda, India. Thank you all of you joining for our Going Organic last webinar. First, I would like to thank our sponsors, the United States Department of Agriculture, National Institute of Agriculture and Food, NIFA, the OREI, and the Feed the Future Innovation Lab, USAID, the Cornell University, that suburb would come to Clemson University, and South Carolina Department of Agriculture, the Good Food Institute, and USDA Agriculture Research Services, and the Global Food Short. Thank you all for your generous support for get us all these speakers and organize this international webinar series all over fall and spring. And then we are hoping to have in-person ones starting from next fall. And today, our host is our presenter is Dr. Joji Muramoto from University of California, Santa Cruz. And actually, Mr. Tristan Lawrence is the one hosting the event today. And I am letting Tristan to introduce Dr. Joji. Thank you.
Sure. Well, thank you. Yeah, so Dr. Muramoto is the Assistant Cooperative Extension Organic Production Specialist at the University of California, Santa Cruz. Dr. Muramoto is a soil scientist, agroecologist, and is the first organic production specialist in the University of California system, with statewide responsibilities in research and extension of organic production. He has been studying fertility and soil-borne disease management in organic strawberries and vegetables in coastal California since 1996. His research and extension aims to make organic agriculture more ecologically sound, economically viable, and socially just through participatory transdisciplinary approaches. He received his PhD, master's, and bachelor's in the Tokyo University of Agriculture in Japan. And also, please check out his article on Frontiers in Sustainable Food Systems. I will send out the link to that paper, but you can scan that QR code too if you would like to check it out. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Dr. Muramoto. It is all yours.
All right, thank you very much, Tristan. Let me share my screen. All right, can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good night, good evening. My name is Joji Muramoto. Thank you for the kind introduction. I'd like to thank Professor Tabaraja and the organizing committee for inviting me to this Going Organic seminar series at Clemson University. It is my extreme honor and pleasure to speak with you today. I wish I could do this seminar in person, since I've never been to your beautiful state of South Carolina. But I'll keep that in my future plan for now. I'm a soil scientist, agroecologist. I studied soil science and completed all my degrees in Japan and came to UC Santa Cruz in 1996 to do research in organic agriculture and study agroecology. Since then, I have been involved in research and extension on fertility and soil-borne disease management in organic strawberries and vegetables in coastal California. The picture here is at my colleagues' collaborative growers' organic strawberry field. First, let me talk about my university and my work as an introduction. University of California, Santa Cruz, where I work, is located in Pacific coastal city of Santa Cruz. The campus has about 2,000 acres and buildings are dispersed in the redwood forest and grassland in which deer, coyotes, bobcats, this is a bobcat, mountain lions, I never met them yet, and banana slug, our school mascot, inhabit. We have no agriculture department, but have agroecology major, BA, in the Department of Environment Studies, Division of Social Sciences. We also have more than 50 years old organic garden farms on campus. Center for Agroecology manages organic farm and 2 organic gardens on campus. It started as a part of hippie culture here in the 1960s. And it has an apprenticeship program with more than 1,500 alumni. The mission of the center is to advance agroecology and equitable food systems through experiential education, participatory research, agriculture extension, and public service. In 2019, I was hired as the first cooperative extension specialist in the University of California system, fully dedicated to organic production. My job description is very broad. Basically, I'm responsible for research and extension of organic production statewide. California is a big state, and it's impossible to do this job just by myself. So the last 3 years, I'm trying to network with researchers who's working on organic production systems across California and conducting needs assessment of California organic growers with UC Organic Agriculture Institute and Organic Farming Research Foundation. And my goal is to make California organic agriculture and food systems more sustainable, ecologically sound, economically viable, and socially just. California agriculture takes an advantage of its Mediterranean climate. Coastal region like Santa Cruz here has much milder summer than Inner Valley like Fresno. Both areas have no rains during the summer. The low humidity in summer reduces weed and disease pressure. Yes, these are still problems in California, but no comparison relative to humid areas like South Carolina and Japan, where I came from. And this is a huge advantage in conducting organic farming in California. However, California agriculture is basically irrigated agriculture, and water from groundwater, surface water, or Sierra Mountains are the lifeline. As the climate change progresses, maintaining water quantity and quality for agriculture is becoming an enormous challenge for all growers in the state. There's some pictures. This shows the dry background is the native vegetation during the summer. It's all dry. But the lettuce field, this is conventional, but it's green due to irrigation. And sprinkler irrigation in Salinas Valley. This is large-scale monocultural cauliflower production, but it's organic. And then some flowers, at least some flowers, planted every 15 rows or so to attract native natural enemies and habitats for insects. Small-scale diversified organic farms, maybe 2 rows or so, different crops. And cover crops during winter rainy seasons are very popular among organic growers. In this case, legume and cereal cover crops, mixed cover crops. And strawberries, major crop in our area. The most difficult labor-intensive part, harvest, is managed by immigrants. According to the geographer Richard Walker at UC Berkeley, there is no tradition of subsistence diverse family farming in California. California agriculture's motive has always been profit, and the low wages of farm labor are an important factor in the continuing profitability of California agribusiness, which is a huge problem in terms of exploitation of farm workers. This means that sustainable agriculture aiming ecologically sound, economically viable, and socially just farming is a foreign concept for the traditional agriculture in California. Water, high land cost, and farm workers' welfare are among the greatest sustainability challenges of California agriculture for both organic and conventional systems, now and in the future. This shows top 10 valued organic commodities in California. Milk and cream, the highest value, and strawberries second, and so forth. And underlying crops, strawberries, carrots, and raspberries has more than 10% of organic percentage in terms of values. Some statistics and numbers. There are more than 3,000 certified organic farms in California, about 18% of the US. So 1 in 5 organic farmers located in California. And 4.3% of total farms in California are organic. This is number 3 after Vermont and Maine. And the highest number of organic farms exists in San Diego County, 300. And 18% of farms are organic in Santa Cruz and Marin counties. And 50,000 acres of organic fields exist in Kern County, excluding pasture and rangelands. This is a recent publication from Organic Farming Research Foundation showing the top 10 production challenges of California organic growers. First one, managing production cost, labor. Well, in the past, this kind of survey always shows wheat as a top challenge, but this year is different. Right now, California's minimum wage increased to $15 per hour. And as I said, it's been really low, but the minimum wage is catching up. This is good for farm workers, but for managers and farmers, it's a challenge. And then water challenge comes number 7 and 9. And then the breeding issue, variety issue is number 8. I made this map of the researchers who's working on organic system across California as a part of the networking. When I came to Santa Cruz 1996, only a handful of researchers are working on organic systems, but now it's more than 40 researchers raised their hands. This is self-claimed list. So we came a long way. Now, I think I did enough introduction, and let's move on to today's main topic. I'm going to talk about a recently published paper that I co-authored entitled Integrated Soil Health Management for Plant Health and One Health. You might have a copy or a link to the paper already, and you have you can access the paper from the link. Soil-borne disease management in organic strawberry is a challenge. Effective tools are still limited. Although my background is soil fertility management, therefore, I have been working with many plant pathologists on soil-borne disease management in organic strawberries ever since I came to California. This experience and my interest in soil health as a soil scientist made me realize that there's a gap between soil health study done by soil scientists and plant health studies done by plant pathologists. The paper I'm going to present today is an attempt to provide a framework that facilitates studies filling this gap. First, the background. Healthy soil can provide multiple ecosystem services, including pest and disease suppression. Many methods to measure soil health through measurement of chemical, physical, and biological properties of soils have been developed. Yet, it often lacks soil-borne pathogen analysis. Soil health assessment without evaluating soil-borne pathogens can be misleading because healthy soil defined by a currently available set of indicators can produce unhealthy low-yield crops due to a soil-borne disease. Many soil health management practices such as crop rotation, cover cropping, conservation tillage, and organic amendment applications can reduce the incidence of soil-borne diseases. But the effect vary depending on the biotic and abiotic factors. Further, many plant pathogens are plant-specific. Therefore, a crop or an agroecosystem-specific soil health management strategy must be developed. Now, the concept I discussed today is called Integrated Soil Health Management, ISHM. This concept applies the concept of integrated pest management, IPM, and agroecological transdisciplinary participatory approaches to soil-borne disease and soil health management. The merit of this concept is to offer a framework for developing and implementing a comprehensive site-specific bio-intensive soil health and soil-borne disease management strategy. To explain the concept, the history of soil-borne disease management in California strawberry is briefly reviewed as a case study and contrasted with the evolution of arthropod pest management to learn some lessons and future directions for soil-borne disease and soil health management. So let's talk about history of soil-borne disease management in California strawberries. Chemical fumigation using methyl bromide mixed with chlorpicrin had been the main tool for controlling soil-borne diseases and weeds in California strawberries since the 1960s. It works extremely well, allowing growers to plant strawberries back to back at large-scale monoculture production systems, as was the core technology of the $2 billion industry. However, methyl bromide turned out to be an ozone layer depleter. It was added to the Montreal Protocol in 1992 and phased out in use in California strawberry production in 2016, after 11 years of critical use exemption. In response, California strawberry growers increased the use of other fumigants, such as chlorpicrin and 1,3-dichloropropane. However, these fumigants are less effective compared to methyl bromide. The brown front area in the photo indicates dead strawberry plants by fusarium wilt, regardless of chlorpicrin fumigation. This kind of scenery is gradually increasing in our area, which is concerning. Moreover, since 2003, the California Department of Pesticide Regulation has documented hundreds of acute illnesses caused by accidental fumigant exposure to agricultural workers, as well as people living near fumigated fields. As a result, the regulation of fumigant is increasingly stringent, making future availability of fumigants uncertain. In 2008, the California Strawberry Commission began the Farming Without Fumigant initiative. Since then, multiple non-fumigant alternatives have been developed and examined. I have been working on a biological alternative called anaerobic soil disinfestation for the last 20 years. Professor Cuttle of Clemson University is currently leading the multi-state project on this approach. Hope the project is going well. It's going well, Matt. This approach is the most widely adopted non-fumigant alternatives in California, but the adoption rate is only about 5% of the total strawberry acreage and mostly used in organic systems. Speaking of organic strawberry production, organic strawberry production may have the highest level of adoption of fumigant alternatives. The acreage of organic strawberry has been gradually increasing since 1980s, when Steve Griezmann, an emeritus professor at UC Santa Cruz, and Jim Cochran, the owner and founder of Swantonberry Farm, conducted a side-by-side organic conventional comparative on-farm trials in Davenport, California. Picture is the trial site. After 30 years from the trial, in 2021, the organic strawberry acreage reached about 5,000 acres, 13% of total strawberry acreage in California. Although typical organic yield is about 60% of the conventional counterpart, disease suppressive strategies such as crop rotation with broccoli, host plant resistance, and ASD, alone or in combination, have supported the growth in organic strawberry acreage. Lastly, recent development of the molecular approaches in detecting soil-borne pathogens are opening up the new ground. There are three major lethal soil-borne pathogens in California strawberries: Bersium wilt, caused by Bersium dahliae, Fusarium wilt, caused by Fusarium oxysporum fragaria, and charcoal rot, caused by Macropomena facilina. The pathogen identification is the first step of IPM approach, since each pathogen has different character. However, the traditional culture-based method takes about 1 month to identify a pathogen, making this approach impractical. Now, these rapid and accurate molecular methods allow us to scout soil-borne pathogens in timely manner and to use a diagnostic-based IPM approach in soil-borne disease management. Comparing the history of soil-borne disease management in California strawberries with the evolution of arthropod pest management offers some lessons and directions for the future of soil-borne disease management. Between 1950s and 1980s, during the heyday of chemical revolution, non-selective, highly toxic pesticides were widely used in arthropod pest management to the tune of motto, "The only good bug is a dead bug." In the 1970s, the concept of IPM was developed, recognizing good bugs as well as bad bugs exist. In the IPM system, transition into a biointensive or prevention-based IPM, as well as redesigning of cropping systems aimed at fostering plant and insect community and population dynamics that self-regulated pest presence and damage. Recently, the extinction of some arthropod species and the decline of honeybee colonies has made us aware of the benefits of arthropod biodiversity and pollinators, leading us to realize that without bugs, we might all be dead. In contrast, for soil-borne disease management, non-selective fumigants are still in use, and the IPM approach is yet at its onset. This delay is partially due to the unique challenges associated with soil-borne disease management, such as the invisibility of pathogens, the lack of post-symptomatic treatments, limited availability of non-fumigant alternatives, and the complexity and diversity of soil ecosystems. Today, however, soil-borne disease management is situated in an exciting time, discovering beneficial and commensal microbes in the soil, like arthropod pest management found beneficial and neutral insect. Recent study also suggests that the core microbes who connect pathogen and beneficials in the soil may play important roles. Research on suppressive soil and soil memory, plant immunity and rhizosphere immunity, and improves crops' nutrient uptake by mutualistic fungi, such as mycorrhizae, are extremely active. As we better understand the soil's biome structures and functions and their relationship with plant health, indicators of beneficial soil microbes and soil microbiome communities for a specific crop or an agroecosystem may be developed. European Union has one of the world's most stringent fumigant regulations and is leading in development of the IPM approach for soil-borne disease management. They developed soil health strategy actions consistent of prevention, certified seed, sanitation and weed control, and monitoring, soil sampling bioassay, and crop rotation, frequency sequence, green manure and resistant varieties, and additional grafting biological control agent, biofumigation, AST, inundation, compost, and so forth. We propose that ISHM, integrated soil health management, as a science and practice with social movement advocacy for non-toxic agriculture. ISHM may evolve similarly to IPM for arthropod pest management, towards biointensive management, increasing prioritization of the role of beneficial organisms, and redesigning cropping systems and cultural practices that prevent soil-borne diseases and induce sustained soil and plant health. At the same time, ISHM is more than a simple application of integrated soil-borne disease management. It also encompasses soil's many other functions by improving overall soil health using transdisciplinary participatory approaches. The proposed ISHM system in this context consists of 4 components: comprehensive soil health diagnostic system, farmers' location-specific knowledge and adaptability, a suite of soil health management practices, and decision support tools. The goal is to develop site-specific agroecosystem design, and soil health management strategies. Now let's take a closer look at each component. First, a comprehensive soil health diagnostic system. This is created by integrating molecular approaches for quantifying pathogens, beneficials, and soil microbiome indicators and their thresholds with an existing soil health management system measuring physical, chemical, and biological soil properties for assessing soil other functions, such as nutrient cycling, water retention, and carbon transformation. Diagnostic system will determine the disease potential both from pathogen density in the soil relative to their economic threshold and the disease suppressiveness of the soil towards target pathogens evaluated by its biotic and abiotic properties. This information will then be integrated with farmers' location-specific knowledge and adaptability. Although often overlooked and underappreciated, farmers' location-specific knowledge gained from day-to-day fieldwork and observations and their adaptability to dynamic agroecosystems and climate change is central to ISHM. Integration of scientific data obtained by diagnostics and farmers' experiential location-specific knowledge can be synergistic. Dialogue between farmers and scientists centers farmers as an active player in examining, fine-tuning, and scaling out agroecological knowledge and practices. Such participatory and transdisciplinary approaches mobilize knowledge for social change and engage stakeholders in research. The third component is a suite of soil health management practices known to improve soil health. As seen in the EU program, various soil health management practices, including practices for prevention and enhancing disease suppression via general or specific suppressiveness, such as applying organic amendments, cover cropping, crop rotation, using host resistance, are integrated to tailor a site-specific soil-borne disease and soil health management strategy. A more intensive approach, such as ASD and steaming, is applied on an as-needed basis, depending on the soil health diagnostic result. Lastly, decision support tools will assist growers in developing site-specific soil health management strategies based on their goals, knowledge, environmental conditions, available soil health management practices, results of soil health diagnostics, and other factors. Roles of decision support tools can be substituted or enhanced by agricultural professionals, consultants, and/or farmer-to-farmer networks. ISHM is characterized as a location-specific and knowledge-intensive approach, which is contrast with the location general and chemical-intensive fumigation and industrial farming approach. However, the transition to knowledge-intensive systems can present significant obstacles for farmers. As it worked in biocontrol, social learning, as seen in farmer-to-farmer networks, has facilitated the implementation and extension of knowledge-intensive soil health management. Policies and extension activities that support such a process and the adoption of ISHM will be necessary for the greater engagement in the co-development of ISHM with and among stakeholders. Some of you might have heard a novel concept of One Health. It's very fascinating and potentially powerful concept, which was first proposed to connect health between animals, humans, and environment by veterinarians. Since then, it has been expanded to connect soil, plant, animal, human, and ecosystem health through the cycling of diverse microbiomes. Not nutrient cycling, but microbial cycling. It's very fascinating. More than 70 years ago, Sir Albert Howard, an early student and advocate of organic farming, wrote, "The birthright of all living thing is health. The law is true for soil, plant, animal, and man. The health of these four is one connected chain. Any weakness or deficit in the health of any urea link in the chain is carried on to the next succeeding links until it reaches to the last mending man. Although our understanding is yet at its infancy, future research of microbiome cycling and nutrient cycling may hold the key to better understanding the chains connecting healthy soils to plants, animals, humans, and ecosystems. This figure explains how ISHM relates to the concept of One Health in designing and managing agroecosystems by farmers. ISHM is embedded in this system. First, there are many agroecological principles proposed, such as recycling, input reduction, soil health, animal health, biodiversity, synergy, economic diversification, co-creation of knowledge, social values and diets, fairness, connectivity, land and natural resource governance, and participation. Using those principles, farmers set the goals, sustainability goals, ecological, economic, and social, short and long term. And under these goals, with the knowledge, farmers' knowledge and observation and diagnostic data, and the help of decision support too and social learning, growers going to design the agroecosystem for soil health and plant health. And then those are related to each other and support animal health and human health and environmental health. One of the best ways to develop sustainable practices in a specific region is to learn from successful local organic farmers who manage pests or fertility with less external input. I'm going to show two such examples in California. One organic tomato growers in Northern California had much less leafhopper damages compared to surrounding conventional growers. And a researcher at UC Davis studied the mechanism. What they found was very interesting, which is the change in leafhopper settling between organically and conventionally grown tomatoes are dependent on the increased plant resistance by the salicylic acid accumulation in plants mediated by rhizosphere microbial communities. The paper was published in Nature Plants. But this basically says healthy soil improves plant resistance to arthropod pests. Who would have thought about it? Another example here. This was done by Tim Bowles. This was his PhD thesis work, and he's now a professor at UC Berkeley. But he studied nitrogen management among many organic tomato growers in Northern California and found three different patterns. One is to have lots of soil nitrate and high yield tomatoes, which makes sense. The second group is the low nitrate, soil nitrate, and low tomato yields, which also makes sense. But the third group was low soil nitrate, but very high yield, which is very unique. And he called this as tightly coupled plant soil nitrogen cycling. And it was supported by rapid soil microbial nitrogen flow without accumulating a large soil inorganic nitrogen pool. And these fields had the highest total and labile soil carbon and nitrogen and received organic inputs from a range of nitrogen availability. Louise Jackson was an advisor of Tim's thesis. He told me the other day, amazing thing is that these growers developed these tightly coupled plant soil nitrogen cycling systems from experiences. That's true. Farmer developed this. So I think a role, not the role, A role of agricultural scientists is to learn from pioneer organic growers, document it, discover the principles, and share with others. This is especially important in developing sustainable organic management practices, since many organic practices are grassroots practices developed by organic growers on their farm with particular biotic and abiotic conditions. Further interesting story of this project, Louis Jackson, now retired. This idea of tightly coupled plant soil nitrogen was actually came from her postdoctoral work at UC Berkeley back in 80s. She studied nitrogen dynamics in California annual grasslands and found this tightly coupled nitrogen cycle. And learning from natural systems is one of the very important way to develop ecologically sound fertility management and pest management, an important principle in agroecology. Each area has different system. South Carolina has its own system. So studying natural ecosystem, nutrient dynamics, and biodiversity can provide very fruitful outcome for agroecosystem management. So integrated soil health management shows only the framework and directions. Future research must fill the contents, and the needs are many. Examples include utilizing mechanistic models in plant soil microbe functions, such as soil suppressiveness, plant immunity, nutrient uptake, better chemical and biological characterization of organic amendments and crop residues, and their relationship with soil-borne disease suppressiveness. Increase the efficacy of plant growth promoting microbes in soil-borne disease suppression and nutrient uptake in field conditions. Development of crop cultivars with ability to modify their rhizosphere microbiome for their benefits. And facilitating social learning among growers and transdisciplinary collaboration of researchers, growers, farm workers, NGOs, industry, and policymakers. I'd like to acknowledge my mentors, Carol Shannon, now retired UCSC professor, and also retired professor, emeritus professors, Steve Priestman at UC Santa Cruz, and many other collaborators, lab staff, students, and growers, and funding from national, state, and private foundations. With that, thank you for listening, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. Stop sharing my screen.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Muramoto. That was great. I don't see any questions at the moment, but there is one in the chat. So if you guys have any, please just go ahead and send them in. But the first one is, could you please explain the term soil memory?
Yeah, soil memory is an interesting concept. In the paper, I cited the original reference. So for detail, please look at it. But basically, soil could have certain information about the disease suppression. So when you have a crop rotation, effect of previous crop in terms of disease soil suppressiveness can be memorized in the soil and affect to successful crop. And it's very interesting, a new concept. So yeah, please check out the reference.
Sure. All right, yeah, we have another question in from Mark Dempsey, and he says, I'm familiar with the Chadwick Giovan's biointensive style of farming. Can you elaborate on the biointensive role in ISHM, which I don't know anything about, but to you.
Okay, let's see. So Alan Chadwick method?
Yeah, that's in the Q&A.
Okay, let me see here. Oh. Oh, I think it's a question about Alan Chadwick Garden. No?
I'm not sure. I don't know the reference, but
would you repeat that question?
Well, just commenting back, you mentioned ISHM should be partly based on biointensive.
Okay. Yes. Well. Oh, okay. Now I see. Sorry. I see the question. The first one. Let's see. I'm familiar with Chadwick. Okay. Yes. Yeah. ISHM is just a framework. So it doesn't specify any specific practices, and biointensive method can be included. Yeah, other practice. So it has a 4 components, right? Diagnostics and practices, and farmer experience, and decision support tool. So those any kind of practices fit into the ISHM framework.
Great, thank you. Now we have another one that says, as we're using pesticides, last resort in ISHM, so how can we use it in organic agriculture?
Yeah, there's organic approved pesticides, right? There are so many. It's as long as current rule allows, as long as it's not chemically synthesized, they are acceptable. So based on natural product or something, that's pesticides are available. So that's an option. And also ISHM, try not to depend on pesticides, but there might be a time that really need pesticides. So I listed as a last result.
Have you seen a good success with beneficial insects in controlling?
Yes, in California, at least, beneficial mite control using beneficial mite is very popular practice among growers, and it's been successful. So yeah, that's an example.
Okay. Yeah. And here's another question: is how can we increase salicylic acid?
Yeah. So that's the interesting study, right? So microbes actually stimulated salicylic acid content in the plants, and then that actually increased the resistance of plants to insect herbivory. The detailed mechanism, please take a look at the reference, the paper I cited in my paper. But it's very interesting and first of its kind of study. So I guess we just started to learn what soil health means, for plants and other animals and so forth.
Okay. Yeah, I think we have time for a couple more questions if anyone has any. The one relating to the One Health scheme that you talked about, and so do we also include oceans as part of that?
Yeah, it should, right? Yeah.
It would make sense.
Yeah, it should help include. I didn't list it, but of course, yeah.
Okay. Says, how important is the role of extension worker in implementing ISHM at ground level in developing countries that involves interdisciplinary strategies?
Yeah, it's so important. And but the difference is, unlike chemical-based approach that they're developed in so scientists, it's extensions, literal extension like top-down approach might not work well for biological intensive approach because, unlike pesticides, to use the natural enemies, you need to know what's the pest, what's the pest insects, and what is the beneficial insects, right? So much to learn, very knowledge intensive. And those things, and then to facilitate those learning process, the farmer to farmer network. And so it seems to be very important. So different kind of extension approach is necessary for this kind of system.
Yeah, I had a question in terms of, some of our soils here are quite sandy.
Mhm.
Is there, certain practices that you can use to retain your soil fertility and it's not just leaching out, when you apply a
Yeah,
fertilizer?
right. Yeah, organic matter content is very important. So, incorporating organic matter, like crop residues or cover crop or compost to increase the soil organic matter is one way to do it. Yeah, I think that's just so important. Also, if possible, I'm not sure, is reduced tillage or not tillage common here? Common in your state area?
They
Some
till.
growers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that if that's possible, that's also helps, creating more aggregate. And tillage basically destroy aggregate. So less tillage is important.
Okay. Great. Well, is there any other questions or Dr. Dale? I think we've.
Yes. So, Dr. Joji, so what is your message to the South Carolina growers to have, especially organic growers, to keep the soil health throughout the year? This is one of the questions we get all the time from the growers. So one of the things I want to tell them, like, well, you have to have the crop rotation and our peas and lentils, but you're the soil expert, so what do you think?
Well, yeah, as you said, crop rotation is the one key. It's very important. It's kind of interesting, but healthy soil is created by crop. Crop sequence create healthy soil. That's for sure. So that's one key thing. And but what crop rotation? That's a question, right? So that's you have to figure out. What crops can be grown and what sequence you need to grow, and more research is needed. What's the kind of suppressive rotation? For example, I'm studying right now in California using onions to suppress fusarium of strawberries. So, and then also other studies suggest broccoli actually by incorporating residues suppress Fusarium wilt. So those kind of information is so important and need more study. And then also soil organic matter, increasing soil organic matter is a key of soil health. Cover crop residues, and as I said, to Tristan, reduce tillage if possible. Those things are so important.
So the tillage, reducing tillage is a problem in organic agriculture because we have to control the weeds.
Yes.
And so we break a little bit of more soil, even though it is organic, but that's especially in our breeding program, we have to do cultivation several times to break the weed cycle.
Yeah.
So that can be a problem.
Yeah, same here in California, especially, it's during summertime, it's very dry, right? So some growers, very progressive organic growers are testing no-till or reduced till systems right now, but it's very difficult. I don't know, your area has constant rain throughout the year.
Yes.
So the moisture shouldn't be a problem, but the weed pressure must be so high.
Yeah.
So how to control weeds without herbicide, that's a challenge. Yeah, I don't know, maybe you can learn from growers who already doing, a no-till system in the like a little bit north of East Coast. There are a lot of small growers doing that. Mainly applying a lot of compost and cover the ground first, and then trying to keep adding compost little by little to suppress weeds. That seems to be the main strategy for small scale growers. Yeah, definitely weed management is the key to how to do that in no-till or reduced till system.
So would you recommend more like, so we put our pulses in the winter season, and then would you recommend after pulses the tomatoes or like any vegetables? So like the Solanaceae and these legumes, is that okay for the soil health wise?
Well, so the naysayers, as you know, it cannot, plant continuously, right? You
Right.
have to have a break. Yeah. So basically, planting different family of crops as a rotational crop is the basic rule. But some legumes, like we have legumes cover crop, but it also hosts pathogens like a sclerotinia. So sclerotinia is a big pathogen for lettuce. So in our area, growers, started to not to plant legumes, unfortunately, other cover crop during winter time, and they are more planting cereal cover crop during winter these days.
Okay. Okay. So I'll let Tristan to ask questions. There's a lot of nice questions from Dr. Shai. Tristan, you wanted to?
Yeah. It says, with regard to organic tomatoes with increased resistance to leafhoppers, does this reflect the unintended damage to soil microbes from conventional fumigated soils? And any idea which microbes are involved?
Yeah, I don't remember the details, so I have you check the original paper. But what I remember is not just specific microbes, but the community. Community structure seems to be different between conventional or organic systems. So yeah, please check the original paper cited in my paper.
Then we had one more, and I found this is very interesting as well. I said, you mentioned that we should develop crops that have effectively modify their rhizosphere microbiome for their mutual benefit. And said, are you aware of a precedent or program in plant breeding to develop crops that better modify their rhizosphere microbiome?
Mm-hmm. There are attempts. I know some papers published already, and seems like there are specific genes for changing soil microbiome being identified. So, but plants release like up to 50% or 40% of carbon they photosynthesize through roots. Lots of carbons goes out from the roots to feed microbes. And that carbon distribution or allocation has been changed due to more focus on higher yield, right? So breeding program has been focusing to get higher yield, and probably less carbon's been released from the roots. So, balancing those things may be a challenge, but I'm not a breeder. So, but that's one thing, important to think about, I guess.
So essentially you're saying that we've been breeding away from that,
right?
For you.
Most likely, but without knowing, right? Now we know it. Yeah, now we know it. So, there might be a way to balance. Yeah.
Great. Well, I think that's it for question-wise. We're over on our time. So I just want to thank you so much for joining us and giving a great talk. And thank you for everyone who tuned in for us. And you have a great rest of your week. And I'm going to go ahead and share our last seminar.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, this is our last seminar for this semester, and thank you so much for joining. We got like a lot of national, international speakers about breeding to soil health to nutrient management, weeding. It has been fantastic semester for us, and thank you so much for everything, Dr. Joji, and I look forward to bring you to South Carolina and do more work, and probably you can meet with your collaborators in South Carolina as well, so we're looking forward to. And thank you all for joining. And next week, the next month, we'd like to give a little bit of flavor from our group that two of our graduate students, they're going to show some of their breeding work related to organic agriculture and genomics work, what we are doing in our labs. So join for Nathan Johnson's, he's a PhD candidate, his seminar, and Tony Reed, actually, Tony is graduating and joining as a pepper breeder in California. So maybe Tony might come see Dr. Joji, who knows? Small world. So thank you, everyone, and we look forward for your input and any questions. Please contact myself or Tristan, and thank you all for your help. And we'll see you again. Goodbye.
Thanks again.
very much.